Welcome to Adulting on the Spectrum. I'm Eileen Lam, an autistic author and photographer, and I co-host this podcast with Andrew Comro.
Hi, Eileen. My name is Andrew Comro, an autistic entrepreneur. Today, our guest is Trenton. Trenton is 33 years old, currently lives with his girlfriend. He has 5 jobs, and he's passionate about Broadway and movies. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. So we like to start our episodes off. We ask each guest how they prefer to be identified, and we don't mean she, her, or your pronouns, although you're welcome to share those as well. We mean person with autism on the spectrum, autistic, I don't give a shit, no preference. What is yours?
I really don't. I'm not the type of person who cares to be like identified. Like it just doesn't matter to me. If I were to pick a word, I just say I'm autistic. And if you're curious, my pronouns are he and him. So, um, but yeah, like some people like to be identified differently. Just doesn't really matter to me.
Yep, that's why we asked. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and that's the answer we get most of the time. It's funny because on the internet, you would think that people have very strong preferences, but most of the guests we've had are like, whatever. Can you tell us about your diagnosis journey? How old were you when you were diagnosed? When did your parents tell you about your autism? All of that?
I believe I was diagnosed when I was 5 years old. It wasn't so much as like, oh, they told me. I just figured it out as it went along that I behaved differently than everybody else. Because how do you tell a child that? Like, they're not really going to understand, like, oh, you behave different. You're neurologically, you have a neurological disorder. So as I grew up, like they would tell me I'm autistic, but I never really knew what that meant. So I would just kind of figure it out as I go. And when I would work with therapists, they would kind of explain to me what was going on with me. And all I really knew growing up is that I struggled socially. I wasn't good with conversation and starting conversation. But as I got better, they kind of explained that's just part of the condition or the disorder, I should say.
So is that the thing that you noticed the most when you were starting to figure out that you were different? Was it like your difficulty with conversations?
Yeah, like social situations, not just conversations, but I let's just say I behaved differently than everyone else, and people were kind of just like not scared, but like just surprised how I took everything differently than everybody else. Like one thing I remember, like autistic, that we don't process pain like everyone else does. So it's very different for us, and I think that kind of alarmed a few people. And
what do you mean by that? That's not something that we've really spoken about much on the podcast, have we, Eileen? But it's definitely true. How do you experience pain? How is that different for you?
Let's just like obviously when you're younger things will hurt, but like how people, I don't really know how to explain it, but like what would hurt for someone else doesn't really hurt for me. It let's just like okay, here's an example. I work at a movie theater.
Yep.
And we were around popcorn, so you know the hot oil.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've had hot oil like on my skin, and it would like burn the flesh and stuff like that. Never really reacted to it. It would sting for a bit, and then I just put some like anti-burn stuff on it. I would never like let's just say someone might be like, oh, okay, better take care of that. I wouldn't be like reacting like, oh my God, it hurts, it hurts. I wouldn't be like, drawing a scene to it.
Yeah, no, I mean that's something I don't experience, but I know that many do, and it's not something that's I think talked about as much as it should be, right? Especially when you have individuals who also are maybe more like, Eileen's son, right? And maybe you know, don't have as good communication to like say when they're hurt or to be able to notice or to seek help in general. You know, I'm bad enough wanting to go to the doctor as it is, right? Let alone, you know, if you don't feel the pain.
Yeah, well,
So
I thought it was just a me thing. Like I thought, okay, that's just a me thing that nobody else really goes through that. But then there was this TV show I grew up watching called The Proud Family, and they brought it back on Disney Plus, and new episodes came out. And then they focused on autism because one of the family members was diagnosed with autism because he was displaying behaviors like not like to the point where, oh, it would challenge him. He would just need a lot more attention, like, and work to process everything. But I remember like I think there's like one scene where they put an ice cube on him for like a reflex test or something like that, and he just sits there and just doesn't react to it at all, doesn't do quick turns. He doesn't really react to it in any way. And I'm like, that's a bit odd. That's what I like, even for like the little jolt, like the reflex thing where they jam the little hammer in you to get a reflex. Never really processed it the way until I saw that. So I realized, okay, it's not just me doing that, and that's I think is just a great portrayal of what it's like for some autistic people. Granted, not everyone can do it, but I think some people are along the lines like that.
You know, it's very interesting because so I have two sons on opposite ends of the spectrum. One of them is nonverbal, severe. The other is higher functioning, like us. And my son was severe autism. He has such a high pain tolerance, just exactly what you are describing. Like sometimes he even laugh when he gets hurt. Or like, you know, like we're talking about like dozens of fire ants bites and things like that most people will be like screaming in pain, and he's just like laughing about it.
See, I know that very well. My brother is nonverbal as well. I remember we went to this doctor appointment to test what we were allergic to. So what they would do was like mark numbers on your back and do a different formula each time. And I'm not gonna lie, but like to be fair, I was younger, so it itches, but I wasn't like crying within pain. Like it itched, and you couldn't scratch, so you were like that for a good long time, and it irritated your skin. My brother, though, we had to hold him down. He he really couldn't process in, especially when we had to tell him we can't do anything yet, we can't scratch it, and like he was irritated. Like he doesn't really react to it that way, but I kind of get the situation, like because my brother's nonverbal and I'm high functioning, so I know the differences in that very well. So
Yeah, that's super interesting. And actually my son had the exact same allergy test done, and the nurse commented and was like, I've never seen a child not react to that test, because they have to press the thing on his back pretty hard. He didn't even flinch, and he was like, I've never seen this.
yeah.
So it's
I hated that. So yeah, I remember. Yeah, they couldn't figure out what I was allergic to. So yeah, I hated that. They don't do that as much anymore, right? I think.
No,
Allegedly.
I don't I at least I as far as I know, like, but to be fair, like I don't really have those many allergies. I think I just have spring allergies, and that's really it. But it is a tricky process to just sit there and not really just do what you normally do, because if anything, not doing anything makes it worse. But it's for research. It's for research. So,
What is the most difficult thing about your autism? Would you say that that's it? And if it is, what is your favorite thing?
um, I think the most difficult thing for me is sarcasm's the one I struggle with the most. Like, I'm always the guy that will take things literally, but I'm more better now. I'm better than I was before. Granted, lots of training and speech therapists and stuff like that. But it's also hard trying to kind of explain to people because autism spectrum is such a wide range. Like you could just be, oh, it's Asperger's syndrome, but even so, there's like a bit of a stretch in that aspect because people like will say autism spectrum. But for me, yeah, like the sarcasm's definitely the thing. The thing I actually enjoy the most about it, probably intelligence that comes with it, because one thing I've noticed, like with autism people, and this is a common trope I kind of see in movies, like we're kind of highly intelligent in certain things. Like I've met a kid who like there who at one point was obsessed with the Beatles and knew every album, every track list, every outfit, like all the members that were the original four to the past members. And I even met a kid who was obsessed with trains. And like I'm not talking like, oh, he knew this. He knew what model, he knew like how it worked. And I'm like, this, depending on what interests you have, you could be very like highly intelligent. It's kind of mind-boggling how intelligent these things are to some people, like because with non-autistic people, they can't really process all that information. But it with high intelligence, depending on the certain interests, is what kind of um it makes me happy about it. I like knowledge. I always like try to learn everything I can, and but I will admit I have a lot of like useless information in here sometimes. So
So what's really funny is Eileen and myself are both extremely sarcastic. We actually realize that is not the norm for autism. But we are we assume sarcasm with each other. Until, to the opposite point. I put I was in a mood one time recently and I put a sarcasm warning for our podcast. I said we should do that, but we didn't this time. Anyway, and then, but when you say intelligence, right? I mean, I don't know if intelligence is the right word, because also, half the population has, an intellectual disability with autism. But then there's also too, having an intense knowledge about something really specific, or like a love for something, I think that's, again, special interest is what you kind of mean by intelligence.
Like a passion, or like a love.
And I think a lot of ways, passion can trump, general intelligence, right? Knowing everything about a particular subject, well, depending on the subject, can be useful.
I'm saying like you take like a non-spec autistic person and an autistic person, and you put them in like they have the same interests. Like I feel like the autism person would know like a little bit more information, because they would be like, I think there's this like there's like the autistic people want to learn more. They have this desire to know how everything works, like from like the little bits to the big bits, whereas, and it just blows my mind like how intelligent they are. And these are supposed to be like challenged people, like, and people assume, oh, challenge means like disabled, it's a disadvantage, which I don't really see it that way at all. I just see it as a new way of looking at things, and they are taking advantage of that. Like, that's just what I mean by it. I'm not saying it as like a bad thing. It's just like a new way of looking at things. And we were told, like, my life, I was told like, oh, an apartment, not going to happen. Like driving, not going to happen. We are always kind of like told no. And and now, because compared to where I grew up, we didn't have these accessibility things and these people that were teaching stuff like this. And now it's just completely changed. But going on to your point, but there is an intelligence that comes with it in certain things for most people on the spectrum. Some people, of course, are like nonverbal. So, but even my brother, who's like nonverbal, he's really highly intelligent. I just don't think people really are willing to see more than that, and that's kind of sad, at least for me.
That's a good point. Some autistic people who are nonverbal don't have an intellectual disability, and there is just much more than we can see at first glance. But then there are also autistic people like my son who are nonverbal and also have the intellectual disability. So it's difficult. There's a lot out there. So how did you meet your girlfriend? We've had some people involved with Love on the Spectrum. Do you know that TV show on our podcast?
Yeah. Oh no, that like I gotta tell you the truth. My mom was like begging me to do that show when I was single. Like she's like, well, because it was an Australian show for a while, and then I think they brought it to America. But that's the thing with the show; they're focused on autistic people who are a couple, or sometime I think I can't remember. There's this one guy who's been on it quite a lot. I can't remember his name, but like they will follow random relationships, and there's really no limit that they won't go to. But to answer your question, and I'm a bit of a hypocrite. I used to like crap on Tinder a lot, but I did do it because I really you can you can talk crap about it all you want, but unless you try it, you can't really say you have an opinion on it. So I did try it, and the one thing they don't tell you is there's a lot of people advertising their OnlyFans in like Snapchats. But we managed to match, but we started talking for a while, and we just weirdly clicked. Like it was very fast how we did things, but our opinions were not just very similar, but like we had the same interest. Like, because the truth is, like, I'm going to say this: you don't meet guys that are interested in Broadway shows or Disney like I am, and which I think, to answer your question earlier, you asked me what my interests are. There's like movies, TVs, Broadway, basically almost anything in the entertainment industry. I almost know what's going on. But to like we had similar interests, and weirdly things just clicked, and then we started dating and things were going well, and I think it's about to be a year in September.
Yes, congrats.
Thanks. And the funny thing was, she was actually going to move this summer before she met me. She was thinking about going to Utah with her friend, and then just somehow, I guess I convinced her to stay.
Okay, so speaking of your special interest, do you live close to New York City, and do you get to see much Broadway?
I don't live close to New York City. I unfortunately live in Texas, but I actually just went to New York May of this year. We had been planning it for a while, and we saw, I think, like 5 shows. We pretty much did a whole bunch of Broadway shows, walked around the city. The shows were, I don't know if you're like Broadway people or theater people at all, but I don't think you know the shows. But basically, we saw Sweeney Todd, which is like one of the most uh, phenomenal shows ever. I think you'll most people be familiar for it with the Johnny Depp film.
Yes, and
With,
Josh Groban is playing, or is, yes, I know this because this is what I got my wife for her birthday, were tickets to Sweeney
yeah,
Todd. So,
no, yeah. We remember it was I think it was just and Annalee Ashford and Josh Groban that was announced, and it had been rumored for a while. It was like the worst kept secret. And I said I was originally going to go with my cousin, but she wanted to pursue her career more. So I just asked her. She happily wanted to come because she had never really seen a professional production. And so we saw the cast, and it just blew us away. I said, like, we have to go. And I haven't been to New York in like years, and I really needed that theater bug in me. But we checked out a bunch of other shows like Parade, which just won Best Revival of a Musical, which is the story of a Jewish man named Leo Frank who was wrongfully convicted of a crime he did not commit. And the whole show is basically just him going through that, and because it's a true story. Because they were kind of because it was in Georgia, I think in 1920, so it was very prejudiced, and he had to deal with that. And then what else? We also checked out Six. I don't know if you've heard of that show, but it's like a big thing right now. We were just bored on a Monday, and Mondays they don't really play a lot of Broadway shows because it's the day off. But we checked. Basically, it's King Henry's the Eighth's, I think, six wives, like Anne Boleyn and like his other queens. They're doing a pop concert, and it's so crazy, but I love it. I have seen the show before, but I definitely love this production more. Then we saw Peter Pan Goes Wrong, which I don't know if you know, the play goes wrong and stuff like that. Basically, these guys are like the worst actors, worst community theater, and it's all planned. It's not like, oh, things are going crazy, but basically they're putting on a Peter Pan production and just everything goes horribly wrong. Actors get hurt, props go missing, like just everything goes chaotic. And then what was the other show we checked out? We checked out the Harry Potter and the Cursed Child show.
Both parts?
So actually, ever since the pandemic, they have combined it into one show. It's three and a
Thank
half.
God.
Yeah, no. I heard that like there were some parts like if we could we would have done both, but like they changed everything to I think for the sake of the actors. But no, we had a great time. We are slowly looking for an excuse to go back. So we're just keeping up with what's going on Broadway. Like I remember there's a play, and this broke my heart. I started crying. There was a play I had been a fan of that's actually coming to New York in a few weeks. It's called The Shark is Broken, which is the story about Richard Dreyfuss, Robert Shaw, and Roy Scheider when they were filming Jaws. Because I'm a big fan of the movie Jaws.
Eileen, have you seen Jaws? Eileen hasn't even seen Star Wars, so she doesn't know anything you're talking about.
No, but it's basically like a giant, like a killer shark is terrorizing this beach and is like killing people in the water. And basically, it's about the actors filming that movie. And I'm like a huge fan of Jaws, and I wanted to check out the play, but it was opening like 2 or 3 months after we left, so I was so pissed about it.
And I know of Jaws, and that sounds like I know the music too.
Yeah, no, but this is like a straightforward like play. But it's Robert Shaw's son. Robert Shaw was in the original movie, and his son is playing him.
So what musical would you like them to turn into a movie next?
Oh my God. That's such a hard question
Or
too.
what movie would you like that, or vice versa, or either way? Yeah.
As for musicals to turn into a movie, I don't think it's not really the musical, but I think it's a great story to tell. Probably Parade. But it's such a like tragic story. But also, one of the shows I recently saw that I loved was Hadestown, which is it's about the story of Eurydice and Orpheus. It's like Greek mythology, but got kind of like a different spin on it, like New Orleans. But as for movie turning into a musical, there's such a wide range, but I definitely think probably Tangled or Encanto or maybe Coco even could have a place on Broadway, but that's my Disney aspiration because I'm a big Disney fan.
So speaking of some more musicals, have you seen I assume you have now The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night? If so, what did you think? And if you want to share with our audience and Eileen, who doesn't know anything about
yes,
media,
so
of what it's about, etc.
It's been a while, but I just saw it recently. So I believe it's the story of a guy, a man who's on the spectrum with Asperger's syndrome, and he's trying to solve like a mystery of why his neighbor's dog was killed. And it just, without giving too much away, it just leads into this crazy story that spirals out of control. And that's all I can really say without spoiling it. But I did see the play when it was touring, and because I happened to work at the theater because I have 2 other jobs where, I mean, two of my 5 jobs are basically ushers at a performing arts center theater. One, and the big Broadway shows tour at those venues. So I saw it when it was in town, and I saw it when they filmed it and put it on the big screen again. And what I loved about the show, it did a great job of putting you in his shoes and understanding the struggle, like of he doesn't process information like we do, and you slowly learn to understand what it's like in his shoes. Because there's this scene where I believe he's in a subway, and never really processed something like this because it's very overwhelming, especially if it's, I think, a London, like it's London subway, because those places are very big, very packed. And I don't think I've ever told anyone this except my mom. There's literally a scene where he's just like walking through and trying to find his way out, and it was loud for me. Like I feel like they intentionally turned up the volume to make you understand how he felt in those situations. And I literally had to leave, like go out in the hall for like a minute or two to calm down the senses and recalibrate in a way, I guess. And I respect the show for making, I feel like they did their research to make you understand or make you feel like how he felt in that situation. And yeah, I thought even the actor who played the kid did phenomenal.
Andrew, was that what you were thinking about the show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it again, it was like, but it was there's the autistic representation, right? Like I think the people who developed it or played in it, wasn't I've heard good things. I haven't seen it, so but
People are gonna have opinions on it. Like, is it the most like authentic representation? No, but like I think it's one of the better ones considering other portrayals of it.
yeah.
So do you have 5 jobs? Like that seems like a lot. Is that because you want to or because
It's mostly because I want to. But to be fair, let me clarify something. Some of these jobs are like once or a few times a month. But the job I do the most is I'm a manager at a movie theater. I'll spend most of my time doing that, but most of the other jobs um require like a certain amount of work a certain amount of times. But then again, shows aren't always coming to town certain months. So if there's nothing there, there's just nothing to do. So they won't schedule people. But when shows come, they'll schedule people.
We have a local or theater here where plays come, and a lot of times they don't pay the people to do the plays, but then you get to see the play for free. So it's a good way to do something you like and get
Yeah,
to see
one
play.
of my theaters does that, and the other one actually pays people. So
Yeah, I could see it being, beneficial either way.
Mhm.
So what is your favorite job and why? Would you do it full time if you could, or do you like having a million different jobs? By a million, I mean
um,
5.
like if I had a job I could do full time, probably manager at a movie theater. But I like the fact that I have multiple jobs just because I feel like sometimes I need a break because the truth is about cinema, like the movie theater I work at, um, there's gonna be upset customers, and sometimes it's just so overwhelming, especially for someone in my shoes, to like because you can't make everyone happy, unfortunately. And sometimes I just need a break from that. So I go work somewhere else and there's not as much of that. There's most of the heck, most of the job you're by yourself and not really interacting with the customers. You're just making sure nothing crazy happens. And you're just really coasting the theater and keeping an eye, nobody's filming or something like that. And I need a break from that every once in a while. So it's more of like a mental health thing because if I were to do the similar thing full time and like not do other jobs, I don't think I can handle it.
So what are your favorite types of movies to watch while you're on Netflix and chilling with your girlfriend?
Oh man, I'm really an open book. I really like anything, but I will say I love animation as well. I'm real not just like oh Disney and stuff like that. I'm really a wide range of like anything animated, like whether it's stop motion, computer images, or drawings. I personally love those type of films, but there's always going to be a soft place for maybe some horror movies. I know that's not everybody's thing, but I do love that stuff.
I like not necessarily horror, more like the mindfuck category. Don't know how else to put it, or like more like thriller. I don't like jump scares,
Mhm.
so something that'll like, like cheap. I mean, I guess, yeah. So I mean, more the psychological thrillers, I guess.
No, yeah,
Um,
those are always great as well. Like I like what's that really good one? Like I can't remember. Like Fight Club would be one, right?
Fight Club, yes. I would put Fight Club in that category. Yeah.
No, yeah, that's a great
Eileen, have
one.
you seen
But
Fight Club?
Yes, I have.
Just because Brad Pitt is shirtless, or pretty much?
Oh, Brad Pitt actually is filming a movie about Formula One right now. Now you're gonna get me to my special interest, and it's gonna be amazing. He was at Silverstone last weekend filming the
Mhm.
movie. He was like he did the formation lap with the other drivers on track.
Oh, is that the one where he's doing like sports cars and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
that's the
Yeah,
one.
I have heard about it. I think it's like an Apple movie or something like that.
Yep, it is. It's gonna be amazing. Like the fact
Oh
that
yeah,
him
I
like
really
all
can't
his own
wait. Like
company
he is
now.
such a talented performer. But I think for like psychological thrillers, my favorite one would be, I don't know if this is really considered one, but Joker.
Yeah.
Like, because it in fact it you don't like the way I see the film, and I really don't think the film gets a lot of credit. Yes, it's kind of the superhero thing, but it does something different with it. I like what it says about society, that the world sometimes is gonna, like, especially because in the film they don't they cut the funding for like mental health and like treating patients with mental illnesses, and the consequences of that, if you are not like a little bit more kinder to people, they're eventually going to react in a very violent way. And it's just kind of true about our society today with, and like, and I just like what the film has to say, like, because you don't know what's real and what's not. For all I know, if you know it's going to be a trick. And I know they just filmed Joker 2, but it's going to be a while before we see that. I think October 2024.
I'm going to ask you some quick fire questions now. So you tell me the first answer that comes to your mind. It's like quick.
Mhm.
Ready? What's your favorite food?
Probably apple pie.
Favorite Broadway star?
Ooh, just give me a minute. Probably Kirsten Chenoweth.
Favorite actor?
Probably Johnny Depp.
Any role model with autism?
Um, as far as I know, I don't think there is, with like specifically autism. I know there's like people in the industry that are like autistic, but it's not really confirmed. So I don't know if there's someone there yet.
Favorite color?
Purple.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. That was
Thank you so much.
I feel like I learned about movies, which I
Mhm.
am happy to learn, as Andrew said.
Mhm.
Yeah. What was it where I like dumped on you some like info and you're like, that will never be my special interest? Was it light bulb related? It's been my kick lately, or
No,
like
it's probably some finance shit. I remember now.
I can't remember what it was, but I'm like, oh yeah, why did I tell you this? Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was. It was
Well,
so you can talk to me about Formula One sometime. So
okay.
I know you go in a circle very fast.
Mhm.
So
You got that. Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
thank you so much, Trenton. And I'll send you a link when the episode is live. But that was great.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.